Yo, welcome everyone once again to the We Are Gamer series. My name is your host, Champ Tone, aka Psychosis, a gamer with a passion for Jesus and gaming. It is once again a true pleasure to grace your space this day. Today we are taking a break from our 1v1 series, which has been so good up until now, and we're going to do something a little different to start off the new year. This is actually a bonus episode. This isn't going to be one of the numbered episodes that we're doing. And alongside me, we're doing a co-op. And as I have had many co-op sessions with many times, let me introduce to you our partner today, AvanteGuarde. Welcome, Avant.
Thank you. I'm honored to be back on the show.
That's awesome. That sounds so cool to say. That sounds so cool to hear. Yes, you actually one of the first people we interviewed, and your episode is actually still one of the top three, which is awesome.
Also,
So this episode, as we discuss, we're going to talk about something outside of gaming, but it's just as important because without it, how can we continue to game? Something that has been actually become very relevant, more so than it has in the past few years. And Avante, he's actually been a huge. It's crazy. A lot of people don't know this, but in my life, he's been such a huge proponent of living healthy. And and there were times that I found it a little, I don't know, not annoying, but it was more like, I saw his zeal for it, and I was like, man, this guy really is into health and stuff. And me as a person, I really wasn't so big into it. So Avante, if you could just give a little more background into a few of the things that you've talked about with your health and stuff like that. I know this isn't actually one of the questions, but I feel just as an introduction to what we're doing here.
yeah, that's a good question to start with. Um, a lot of my views on health
Mm.
and a lot of the choices I've made have been influenced heavily by my father.
Oh wow.
My father, he got to a point where, and I don't know what really triggered this with him, but he got to a point in his life where he got very health conscious. He actually is an avid reader, and I remember being a young lad and seeing some of the books he was reading.
A young
Um,
lass, a young laddie.
Wee Little Lad, and some of it seemed pretty extreme.
Mm.
Now I want to say that this now, if I was to go back and think about the materials I saw in the house
Mhm.
that was health related,
Mm.
this is going back probably 22 to 24 years ago.
Mm. Wow.
And he was reading books on subjects that was very um, not meta with health. It was very off the beaten path that is very normal now. So
Mm.
he was reading books on like what it was to be a vegetarian and be a vegan at a time where that was not it was almost taboo to even talk about that stuff because it got such a bad rap back in the day that it was deemed maybe even kind of I don't know like kind of kooky. Like you gotta be a little crazy to believe some of this stuff. So you're kind of crazy, and this is crazy information, and this is bordering maybe even pseudoscience depending on who you talk to. So
Mm.
I did not hop on that trend with him right away. So while I am I find it interesting that you've uh, see that point of view of me and you've seen that side of me.
Mhm.
You really haven't seen like the back and forth that it's taken for me because I also at first was thinking it was kind of weird. he was doing dried powdered vegetable like
Mhm. Mhm.
supplements and stuff that he would eat straight from the container and not like mix it with anything. And like he was doing stuff that just is weird. It was weird at the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you know, nowadays people dry scoop pre-workout, and that's like a thing. You know, that's like a badge of honor.
Ugh.
But like,
Really?
yeah, it's like a badge of honor
Ugh.
if you could if you could dry scoop
Oh God.
pre-workout. You know, it's like a
That sounds
you're kind of like a
horrible.
hazing. Yeah, it's
Oh.
terrible. And
Ooh.
so um and so that but that influence on me
Mm.
started manifesting later. It didn't happen 22, 23 years ago. It actually maybe
Mm.
started happening more like 20 to 19 years ago. So it took a couple years of me not caring about
Mm.
what he was doing and me
That's
doing my own thing before I started to
that's wild.
let it kind of like seep in and give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild, man. All right. Let me just go with this first question. And this is gonna seem like such a, you know, it seems like such a simple question. And just for everyone listening, so this isn't gonna be a back and forth where I ask, he answers. This is actually I will answer after Avante answers because we both have a good view on this now. And I think I don't want to say we're in sync because I still believe that you have a better grasp on health than I do. I'm just starting to understand it because of the things that have come up in my life. So,
Mm.
this first question, what was why do you feel that a healthy lifestyle is just so important to you? Like why is it important to you? Because it always has been. I'll be honest. I've always felt that you've always put an emphasis on it from as long as I've known you, and you've always where I'm the opposite. For a long time I didn't have a healthy lifestyle, and you would be like, Tone, what are you doing? Chugging down 3 2-liter bottles of soda a night. you know
Yeah.
I never really understood your concern until I was diagnosed with diabetes, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but what is it, why is it health why is it so important to you? Like what was it that made it important to you?
I I think I became aware of my invulnerability was wearing off early in my youth.
Oh,
So I was invincible. I don't know if you know this, but we're all invincible going into high school. Like nothing can really hurt us. We don't get
yo,
hurt.
that
We
is
don't
the
get
truth.
sick.
That is the truth.
we
That is
could
the
do
truth. I
we
have
could do
gone
some wild things
I have gone through
like
brick walls. I have
slamming through cars.
I have punched reinforced glass. Yes. Yes, right through it. You just scrape off the glass, wash the blood off, and you're fine. You're like Wolverine regeneration in like 2 days. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, bro.
Yeah, yeah, and and I've never thought about what influenced me because I was very active young, and I know
Mm.
you were active young too. You were
Mhm.
out
Mhm.
wrestling and everything in backyards and in parks and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I was playing basketball, and it
Mhm.
was basketball was a pretty good um attention grabber for me. I want to say obsession, but I I wasn't as obsessed as I could have been. Knowing how I am now, I
Mm.
wasn't as obsessed with basketball as I could have been. But I was in it enough to like annoy my mother with the basketball bouncing in the yard and stuff, and in the front. So, so so being active in that way and being able to
Mm.
run basketball games all day was something that I really like doing, and I think the beginning of me being conscious of when I lost my invulnerability is when I
Mm.
hurt my knee in high school. I was a senior in high school, and I tore my ACL enough
Mm.
so that it affected my playing.
Mhm.
And this is how I this is how I thought I was invincible. I hurt my knee during an actual high school varsity basketball game. And to me, it felt like the way I jammed a finger or an ankle, my knee was jammed, right? You never really hear that phrase jam your knee because knee injuries are pretty serious. So to me, I classified in my head, oh, I kind of jammed my knee. This feels like I jammed it, right? And And from that injury, I went to see the doctor,
Mm.
and he said, I think you tore your ACL. He's doing like hand tests on me, and he's like, your stability in your knee is gone unless you get this
Oh.
replaced. Yeah, there's a possibility it could be repaired, maybe, but most likely it's completely gone. And I'm like, sure it is, doc. I'll see you in a couple of weeks when we come back with the MRIs, whatever. So I played basketball with a torn
What?
ACL, and my
Oh my
and my
god.
knee will give out. In fact, my very last game of my
Mm.
high school career,
Mm.
uh, I had 21 points going into the third quarter. It was the highest scoring game of my career at that point,
What a
and they
torn
get
ACL.
with a torn ACL, and it gave out on me one more time, and I couldn't go back in the game,
Oh.
and that was the last time I
Oh.
played. Yeah. So as it turns out, fast forward, it
Mm.
was a torn ACL. I
Mm.
wanted to get it repaired because I felt like I still had more
Mm.
basketball in me. So
Mm.
so that story kind of builds and builds, but that was the beginning of me realizing, like, you know,
Mm.
what if I went to the gym? What if I had access to a gym? What if I really took care of myself when I ran into that? And then that just
Wow.
continued to morph into, okay, how much does food like play a role in
Mm.
like where
Mm-hmm.
I was going?
Mm-hmm.
So just the idea of being cut short and feeling like I had more basketball to play, really like drove me in that direction to try to stay healthy. Now,
Mm.
just a side note,
Wow.
a health journey
That's
is
amazing.
very humbling, and I want to hear your side of your
Humbling
version of what it
indeed.
means to be humble. But
Humbling indeed.
yes, but and my journey on being
Mm.
humble with health is, even with all the suggestions I've given my friends over the years and stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I would recommend to do,
Mm.
there was always a level where I was just not good enough yet. I still wasn't doing it good enough. Like,
Mm.
every stage of my health journey, um, I would take two steps forward and maybe three steps back at different points in my life. So I weighed 265 pounds at one point in my life, snacking on crackers, and I figured that's fine. I can
Mm.
snack on crackers all night because it's
Mm-hmm.
not junk food. But for me, that wasn't a accurate
Wow.
statement. So the humbling experience for me is, oh, okay, I think I have some knowledge of my health and the state of my body and the state of what I'm doing that's healthy. And then there's
Yeah.
the reality of it. And then, like, it
Mm.
takes your body to tell you that, no, you're still doing this wrong and that wrong,
Wow.
you know? Um, but how about you? Like, what is it about your point of view now that has changed? Because it sounds like that's what you were addressing slightly there. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
touched on it a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. That now you
Yeah.
have your own version of it and your own reasons of why you're paying attention to your health.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned how you tore your ACL, and like it's interesting, right? It's almost like when things stop working, it's like, oh, what happened that it stopped working? when
Mm,
when the reality is that
mm,
it stopped working because we weren't taking care of it.
right.
So for me it was more of, because when I was young, high school, like you said, I was invincible. I was working out daily. I was playing basketball all the time. You know about the backyard wrestling. I was letting kids run and do drop kicks on me because they couldn't knock me down. My stance was just that strong. You know what I mean? Like, I was just this 5'6", well 5'7" dude, average height, but I was built like a truck. And no steroids. I never took supplements. I just ate a lot of rice and beans, but I worked out a lot. I worked out a lot. And then as time went on, I felt like I could eat whatever I wanted. Eating
Mm,
one and it happened more so after I got married and moved out the house, because now I can eat whatever I wanted instead of what my parents gave me. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like, when
mm-hmm,
you live with your parents, you eat what they make, because unless you want to go out and buy something. But at the time I was also young. I didn't have well, I did work, but I didn't really have that much money. So, but then you start dating, and when you're dating, you tend to eat out more because you're with your significant other having a good time. And then, I got married relatively young, and I still thought I was invincible. This was the fallacy. I still
Mm.
thought I was invincible, ate whatever I want. At one point, like I said, I was drinking 3 2-liter bottles of Pepsi, not Diet Pepsi,
Right.
straight
The
up Pepsi.
regular straight.
Yes,
Yep. Yep.
straight up Pepsi, and it was ridiculous. Like I was just chugging them down, and some of the guys made comments about it that I just shook off to, yeah, I could handle it. And the reality was my body couldn't. So I developed diabetes. All right. That was a life moment. Life letting me know how fragile the human body really is. Did I listen? No, I did not listen. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't take care of myself for a long time. I would have spurts where I would start exercising, I would start eating right, but I never stuck with it.
Mm.
I never stuck with. I mean, there was one point I was working out hard, and Shan was. I remember one day, Shan, she's my wife. She she actually told me, she's like, "Why don't you work out anymore?" It was nice, it was nice seeing you. Like, you were getting yo. She actually told me this, and that's actually so. That's when I started working out again after she said that. But again, I didn't stick with it. I wasn't eating the way I should have. I
Mm.
was never eating the way I should. And then, with life and stress play a big role. And it's important. I'm doing this because I didn't realize how important health was. I didn't. I was a young 20-year-old dude. I'm 42 now. I'm legally blind right now because I did not take care of my body. You know, I did not take care of, because at one point, I would say for the last 3 years, I actually got to the point that I stopped taking my diabetes medicine. I was just sick of it because I wasn't seeing improvement, but I wasn't seeing improvement because I was eating whatever I wanted, taking these
Mm.
medicines. I wasn't even eating the way I should have been. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And people listening are probably like, "Oh, so you should have been eating what you should have been." And you know what? They're 100% right. I should have been eating. But how many times? And this is when I had a visiting nurse come when I had my surgery last year, because this all really started with an episode of diabetic ketoacidosis and a sepsis infection, which nearly took me out. And I had a chunk of my inner thigh taken out, literally like a watermelon slice, from the front of my thigh all the way around my inner thigh to my back. It was a 14-inch cut. They cut in 2 inches deep and had to remove the muscle because the infection went septic and started to spread. So they closed it up. I had about 8 surgeries because they had to keep cleaning out because the infection wouldn't die. It was crazy.
Mm. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that had to be another, and talk about a major, point where it's like, okay, how fragile is the human body? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
yeah, and so that happened. And that was because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was not eating right. I was gaming, I was making friendships, you know what I mean? Things were great, I thought, but I wasn't eating right. I just wasn't eating right. I was drinking whatever I wanted. I was drinking regular soda like an idiot. I wasn't even drinking diet soda. I was drinking juice. It was horrible. I was asking for this, basically. This is, I mean, don't get me wrong, this whole scenario is quite possibly the worst case scenario, but I thought it would never happen to me.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, it never gets that bad. That's one thing I said. That's one thing I would tell myself all the time. It would never get that bad. I won't get into a situation where they might have to amputate me. No, my sugars are okay. They're like in the mid 200s to 300, which is horrible, by the way. If your sugars are that high, that nothing good comes out of that because there's so much damage that's done
Mm. Mm.
to your body. And then, you know Now I have right now I have diabetic retinopathy and something labeled as vitreous hemorrhaging. So my eyes are just constantly bleeding, and the blood is in the way of my vision, and the bleeding hasn't stopped. And this has been since it has been at least 10 months that I have been being treated for this condition. And mind you, right now my blood sugars are actually controlled. I've actually changed my diet to the point where my blood sugars are consistent under 120, even though over the holiday it was like 130, 140, because my wife makes sour cream and bacon mashed potatoes, and those are damn good. And you know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
but now my blood sugars are good, they're under control. I'm eating the way I'm supposed to be eating. I'm taking my medication the way I'm supposed to be taking it. And the reality is that y- the body, our human bodies are not immortal. And when we're young, we think we're invincible. We think we can do what everyone. You were playing freaking basketball on a torn ACL. Had brought you're probably your best game, which is amazing. That is so good. But yeah, it's just and I really felt to do this. Like don't wait. Don't wait till you're at this point. There's people listening, and you know I this is to encourage you. Don't wait till it gets to the point that it's so bad.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like you've always lived a healthy lifestyle. You tore your ACL. Yeah, that was a and that's the thing. Our bodies, even if we're eating right and living right, things will still happen to our bodies. But when we're eating healthy and living right, our bodies are able to recover faster. Our
right.
ables are able our bodies are able to just get on the mend so much faster. And I've seen that, especially
Mm,
this last year, even with all these horrible things that are going on with me. Because I got a laundry list of issues that have cropped up since then. But when I'm sick, I'm not sick as long, which is
mm,
interesting. When I get cuts, they don't take weeks to heal and get infected like they used to.
mm.
Yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. Like I see it. I see it, but yeah, it's definitely humbling. Like not being able to play video games, frustrates the heck out of me. I literally, and it's funny because I'll tell my friends that I'm legally blind. They're like, the first thing they say, especially if like my cousin and the guys we play games with, they're like, wait, can you still play games? And I tell them no, and they feel so bad because they
Yeah.
understand. They're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And you know it is what it is. It has been. So that's why it's important to me. I want people to take it seriously. Take your health seriously, because especially the people who game. Like it's so easy to just sit in front of a PC or console for hours, lose
Mm-hmm.
track of time, never
Mm-hmm.
stretch, eat
Right.
junk. You know, because I've done it. I'm not saying anything that I
Same.
haven't done.
Same.
Yeah, you know what I
And
mean?
I'm not judging anyone who's done that because I've done that.
No, absolutely. You know what I mean? This is more of a yeah. We understand it because we've been there.
Yeah.
We know how easy it can be to get into that mode where you just don't want to get up because you're comfy. You're playing with your buddies. You're having a great gaming session. You're snacking. You're not eating. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's chips and some quick little burger or something. You know what I mean? It's not a okay, you take a break and actually have a real meal, or things like that. Those, not going out and exercising, a few days a week, doing something, just even stretching. It's crazy how important that is. And I don't want anyone to this is like one of those things you never want anyone to experience. I would, especially a gamer, to lose your vision like this. I mean, will it come back? Maybe. Right now it's not, and it's going to be a long time if it does. And I would not want anyone to ever go through this. in all honesty, ever. So, well, so let wow, we've actually been talking for a long time just on that one question, and I have a few others, which is interesting. So let me just ask you though. Your background. You talked about your dad and health and stuff. So, are there like health issues that run in your family specifically, or no?
I I actually don't know.
Mm,
I had to ask my aunt on my mother's side what has been, and she didn't really give me an answer of like
hmm
something that I could piece together for myself.
Yeah.
The only thing that has come about on my mother's side
Mm.
is high blood pressure, and my blood pressure is a tad high right now.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
it fluctuates. Yeah,
Mm.
you're supposed to be like 120 over 80, and I'm like 130 over 80 and change. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of above normal.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was higher before. I had a doctor want me to track it and said, hey, you need to lose a little weight and
Mm.
track this. And if it doesn't go down, I'm going to put you on blood pressure medication. And to
Oh,
me, that was
wow.
like a death sentence. I was like,
Oh,
there's no way I'm going to hop on blood pressure medication in my mid 30s.
oof.
So
Yeah, yeah.
again, that's one of those the down part of the roller coaster where I
The
have my
reminder.
moments where,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a reminder, and I have my moments where you think you know what you think you tell yourself what you're doing isn't bad, and you
Mm.
tell yourself the way you are isn't terrible, and then you believe it, and then you get a message like that from the doctor. So uh blood pressure on my mother's side of the family is a thing, I
Mm.
think.
Mm.
um but I actually don't know much of my health on my father's side of the family. Like, there's nothing that it feels like everyone has like their own thing. Like, I
Mm.
have a cousin on my father's side that has something crazy, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, fibromyalgia or something like that. But
Oh,
she's the
wow.
only person I know on my father's side of the family that has that.
Right.
Uh, then then uh, my his mother had
Mm.
Parkinson's, and then
Mm.
that she's the only person on my father's side of the family that I know had dealing with Parkinson's.
Mm.
Then on my mother's side of the family, my grandmother, her mom, has dementia. She's
Oh,
the only
wow.
one I know on my mother's side of the family.
I've heard of them.
Yeah,
Mm.
the only one, she's the one I know of who's old age that's dealing with dementia. Um, but I do know that even though I don't know if there's something that runs in the family, I think we all have, like, even down to my sister, we all have like different health challenges. And it's interesting because then it can kind of bring up the age old conversation of, like, environment versus what you inherited, like nature versus nurture. Like, what is it that you're susceptible to because of your genetics, and what is it you're susceptible to because of habits maybe that's been passed down. you know um
Mm-hmm.
do you have, I mean, I think I know partial answer, but with what you're dealing with, do you have anything that runs in the family?
Yeah, I actually do. So it's funny. I have an aunt who's diabetic that has
Mm,
had the retinopathy. Not this bad,
okay.
but she's had it. So we actually had a conversation recently, and we were literally discussing, and we were just having a laugh because we've had the exact same procedures. We're cracking up talking about, yeah, with the injections. Yeah, the injections are kind of good because they're quick. You don't have to sit there for like 5 minutes getting this laser shot in your eye, and we're cracking up because we totally understand each other's pain. It was
Mm,
hilarious. And I have a few other family members. Diabetes is definitely one thing that does run in my family.
mm,
That I do know. Diabetes. There's a few cancers and a few other things which, after learning about, I've actually started to take a little more seriously in
mm,
terms of health. So like I take especially for my cholesterol. So you know how you have good and bad cholesterol. So the good cholesterol was low while the bad cholesterol was high. So
Mm,
I'm actually taking a medication that has helped with that a whole lot.
mm,
And I've changed the diet to incorporate things that'll help increase the good cholesterol while also lowering the bad cholesterol, which are within the confines of good diabetic eating as well. You
nice.
know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
it's interesting because a lot of it goes hand in hand. Usually, most healthy foods are healthy for everything. You,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
Like, not always, but I would say a good maybe in from what I've researched, about 90% of the foods that I eat that are for to keep my diabetes in check also help with keeping everything else in check. It's like there's like a natural balance in it. You when you're eating well, when you're eating these things that have all these vitamins that you need.
Right.
Especially I've been eating a lot of vitamin K with the spinach and the things like romaine lettuce, leafy greens, and it's weird because that's supposed to help with eye health, and I don't know if it's just too late at this point, but the situation has just been going on. I mean, one eye has actually stopped bleeding, but that eye has scarring and other issues because of just the damage that's been done. So vision out of that one is still pretty bad. That's the one I'm going to get surgery on, coming up. So we'll see if that really does anything. We don't know. And then the other eye just hasn't stopped bleeding.
Mm.
And it's just weird. Even the doctor's a little like, he doesn't get like why is it why is it that it really hasn't stopped. And even I'm confused too. I don't get it. But again, humbling moments, man. Humbling moments that remind you you're not invincible. Just and sometimes people view humbling moments as a negative, but sometimes it's good to be reminded that we aren't we're fragile. Like, and that's hard for me to say because me
Yeah.
growing up,
Taking drop kicks to the chest
you know what I mean? Like
to saying we're fragile. Yeah.
I would be able to hold five people in a star shape in a formation just on my thighs while I was doing a horse dance. You know what I mean? Now
Yeah.
I can
Mm.
barely hold myself up on my legs. You know what I mean? It's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's a reminder that the body just, you got to take care of it. And when you don't take care of it, just like a car, bro, don't take care of your car, see how long it lasts.
Right.
Don't take care of any type of machine, see how long it lasts. Here, I'll put it in a perspective for all us PC gamers. Don't dust your PC ever and
See what
see how
happens.
long it lasts. I've had two PCs literally burn out on me just because of dust. Just because of dust. And
Yeah.
and and you guys, everyone who's listening, who has a PC who games, knows exactly what I'm talking about. Unless you got like some amazing PC case that no dust gets inside your PC, and if you do, that's amazing. Because even this new PC I have has crazy dust filters, and I still got to clean this thing out because it does get a little hot when the dust builds up. But don't take care of it. See if it runs the same. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That blue
Right.
screen of death because your PC's overheating because of dust,
Yep.
because it just needs to be cleaned.
Right.
Our bodies are we are for all intended purposes, living machines, more or less. I know that might rub some people the wrong way, but we have systems that need to be maintained and taken care of. And their foods, and it's crazy because the food that's grown, this is like natural food. It's like this it's almost like it was made this way. You know what I mean? Quote,
Yeah.
wink wink.
Right. Yep.
These all these
Like if it
vegetables,
was intelligent designer behind it or
right?
something.
You know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that oh these this vegetation is actually good for us to eat. You know what I mean? And man, we've been I'm just gonna this is actually a really good discussion. And I had a bunch of questions lined up. I'm only gonna really ask just one more, for us to discuss. And that's the one, what was it? Was there any significant change that you had to make with your diet, and why did you make that change? Was that one of the questions? Am I going off
It is
track
now.
here? Lol.
It is now. I mean, I think you wanted to ask like,
Mm.
uh, have you made any like changes in your lifestyle in the last 10 years?
There
I
you
guess that
go.
was major,
That's
and,
the one.
and yeah, and and I think the biggest change I made
Mm.
that was in the last 10 years was during COVID, during from
Mm.
May to I think May of 2020. So
Mm.
February the world shut down,
Yeah.
and
Yes, it did.
and over in the US anyway. And um I was sitting on a book for a year that I kind of half-assed it. I had bought it, read it, and it was just one of those things. Like it was like watching my father read the books from back in the day. It was like this thing just seems kind of a little extreme.
Mm.
It makes me. It's telling me to stop eating bread. It's telling me to stop eating
Mm.
eggplants. It's telling me to stop eating this and that, and like, and I said to myself, I can maybe just do half of this stuff and be okay.
Mm.
And nothing changed.
Mm.
And nothing changed. And I forgot about the book. And now COVID hit. And in high school, at my healthiest in high school, I was
Mm.
about 180 to 200 pounds playing basketball every day. So
Mm.
I remember what it was like to run around and feel good
Same.
at 180, 200
S-
pounds, right?
Same.
Enter 2020 and 265 pounds.
Mm.
And weird thing starts going on with me,
Mm.
like heart palpitations, just sitting around not doing anything.
Oh wow.
Um, and
That's
certain
scary.
body aches started going on, and like
Yeah.
it's just jarring. It's again, it's the reminder of like
Mm. Mm.
you're doing something a certain way for so long, and now your
Mm.
body's fed up with it. It was dealing with it.
Mm.
It was
That's
never healthy to begin with. Just because we got away with it when we were young doesn't mean that it was healthy then.
yes. That's a
It,
great. Yeah. Absolutely.
right? Our body dealt with it. In spite of us being,
Right.
dumb in our decisions. It dealt with it anyway, and it got to a point where it just got fed up with dealing with it,
Mm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
starts
Mm-hmm.
talking back to us, and it starts giving us attitude, our
Mm.
bodies,
It's like, yeah,
and
not today. It's like, what do you
exactly,
mean not today? Move.
exactly, yeah, exactly right. So I revisited this book, and I
Mm.
said, if I'm really gonna take this serious, let me just follow this book verbatim.
Mm.
And I ended up losing like 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
um, yeah, 30 to 40 pounds before the year was up. Before 12 months had even passed.
Mm.
I did daily walks, and I did the changing the food, and I took it seriously. I didn't half-ass it, and I changed it,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I've kept off the pounds ever since then. So it's now 2020, the end of the very, very tippy end of 2022, and I still kept the weight off. I've been hovering around
Mm.
235, 240. I go up and down from 235 to 240.
That's still
Um,
amazing that you were able to lose so much weight.
and yeah, thank you. I thought it was amazing. I didn't think I could do it
Mm.
because one of the other things that you learn is that maybe certain actions worked to undo some of the nonsense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, hey, I drank all night. Let me just take this nap. And you realize that taking a nap doesn't help anymore. It's like,
uh,
oh, damn, maybe I should not drink as much,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
those kind of adjustments. So
Mm.
I found myself like where I would just say, I'll just lose this thing. I'll just do more of this. I'll just go to the
Mm.
gym more. And then it's like,
Mm.
well, you were kind of doing the same stuff over and over again, and your body kind of got used
Mm,
to it, and it doesn't do anything anymore. So I didn't think I could lose that much weight because I had tried to lose weight like that before,
right,
but I was doing the same thing. So
right.
I kind of just went with it just to see what would happen, not really thinking I would lose that much. So,
Right, right.
so I actually probably should, because then I wisdom visited me and had a conversation with me and convinced me to to go see a doctor again just for regular checkups, to not let it
Mm,
don't let 15 years go by
right.
before you see a doctor, when the only time you see a doctor is if you have appendicitis.
Oh,
Like don't wait for that long. Just go and get and be proactive. Don't be reactive about your health. So it was, again, one of those lessons that I learned being
mm,
hard headed, not because I was so good at decision making for my
mm,
health.
mm,
And so I feel like in the last 10, the most important decision was only really in the last 2 years of the past 10 years.
wow.
And I'm just fortunate enough that I've gotten to this point, but I still have more work to do, because that good old doctor visit, he told me I have to lose a couple more inches around my waist because I'm still in a not so good weight area for me.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and he gave me inches, how many inches I should be around my stomach, and I have to lose like 6-7 inches than versus what I have right now. He says otherwise everything else is fine, but if you don't, it's kind of like if you don't pay attention to this one part, it kind of doesn't matter that everything is fine, because then everything else is going to start adjusting if you stay there. So
Oh, okay.
I need another,
Yeah.
yeah, I need another like push to lose like another. I think I
Mm,
should probably be back at 200 where I was in high school, 200, 210, maybe even not
mm,
235. I think I should lose some more.
yeah, yeah.
But tell us about you, because I know you touched on it a lot now in our conversation about like the changes you've had to make. And you gave a 10-year window. So what's
Yeah,
your
well,
what's been
literally,
your journey?
so so my journey is kind of similar. I half-assed a lot of my dieting. I half-assed a lot of the exercise, thinking it was enough.
Mm,
It was a lot of the same thing. You think it's enough
mm-hmm,
because you're
mm-hmm.
doing something. You're seeing
Right,
some results.
right.
You know what I mean? I was doing
Yep.
the diet supplements. I was eating a little healthier. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I was exercising. So I was like, all right, but but for me, I never stuck with it. I never stuck with it. I kept going. I would do a fast at the beginning of the year where I would eat only vegetables. I would lose mad weight. I would feel great, and then for the rest of the year, I just ate crap. I just I remember the day after my fast, I would usually have like White Castle or something. Like it was totally horrible. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it was just terrible. And really the number one turning point was it was last year when I had that episode. Then I was hospitalized and almost didn't make it. Like if if
Mm,
that if that doesn't wake anyone up, what will? You know what I mean? So since then, I have completely changed my diet. I eat zero rice. I eat no bread. Well, the bread intake is very low compared to what I used to do. And if I do eat
mm.
bread, it's whole wheat, or I'll have it maybe once in a month on a
Nice.
sandwich. You know what I
Nice.
mean?
Yep.
No rice. No, there has been. I might have had rice once last month because a friend of mine was going out. We went to a Mexican restaurant and they have this amazing burrito which has chorizo and all this good stuff. It has rice in it.
Hey.
I had it, but because my sugars was so well maintained, it didn't spike my blood sugar. The next,
What?
yeah, my blood sugar
That's fantastic.
stayed under 140,
Nice.
which when eating rice is a big thing because I've seen how rice spikes my sugar like crazy.
Mm,
Stayed away from that. Huge plate of vegetables with every meal. Snacking on walnuts and almonds instead of just junk.
nice.
Very,
Yeah.
very limited junk food intake. Even though, like I said, the last few weeks though we've been partying. I we've been, but even when I order takeout, I try to get the more vegetarian oriented dishes. We'll get Chinese food. I'll only eat like the beef and broccoli. That's it. You know what I mean? I'm not having a huge thing of rice
Right.
on top of it. I might have an egg
Yep.
roll,
Gotcha.
but you know, some days, sometimes instead of an egg roll, I'll have fried wonton instead. You know what I mean? And
Right.
keeping it to a minimal in terms of junk. It's important. The other day I actually did have we actually did order White Castle, which is funny. I heard my wife snickering when she heard me mention it. And I had a couple burgers and my sugar did go up almost to it went above 140. And I was like, oh man, I need to take it easy. So the next day I literally just had eggs and lettuce pretty much for the whole
Nice.
day.
Nice.
You know what I
And I
mean?
bet you
Like,
that worked, didn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keeping that carb intake low, but also keeping not just eating stuff to replace the carbs, eating healthier foods, you know? Like
Nice.
having green beans and broccoli instead of macaroni and cheese. You get what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's a huge change. It's not easy.
Right.
It's not easy. It takes getting used to because you find sometimes you're still hungry because you're used to eating so much junk. Also drinking a lot of water. I try to drink up to a gallon of water a day. I literally measure it out
Nice.
and I have this cup that is a quart or is it a quart of a gallon and I try to get 4 of those cups per day. Some days I do a little more, some days I don't make it, but that's the goal most of the time. You know what I
Nice.
mean? That
Yeah,
makes
that's
a
good.
huge difference.
Yeah, that's good.
Drinking that much water and nothing else. I don't drink no juice. I might have a cup of diet soda once a week. You know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah. Nice.
And that's it.
That's a huge change based on what you were telling us at the beginning, where you were doing 2 liter,
Totally
2 liter Pepsis, by yourself.
chugging them, thinking
Uh.
thinking I was a man, chugging them down. Like, yeah, you can't do this. You know what I mean? Because remember, I quit.
And remember, yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
was with you because I was
Yes,
drinking the Pepsi with you.
yes, you were. Yes, you were. Because that was
You
it.
would pour
Keeps
a
me like
little, and then you do the rest of the bottle for yourself.
right. I would pour you the cup, and I would drink the rest. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
when I would
right. That's
visit.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll
When
be
I
like,
was
here,
there.
bro, share with me, and we
Yeah,
would do a salute, but I would
yeah.
use the whole bottle,
Absolutely.
and I would chug it though.
Yeah.
I would chug the whole thing down, and was like, because that's how I used to drink beer. Because, I quit drinking beer when I was a lot younger too. It's a good thing too, because I could just imagine how crazy my sugars would be with how undisciplined I was with my
Mm,
health at the time.
mm.
And yeah, so those are really the changes. Oh, also a lot of fish,
That's good.
a
Good
lot of
fats.
fish. Yeah,
That's good
fish.
fats. Yeah.
Eating a lot because
Omegas.
even my doctor was a little impressed because my A1C was back down to 5.6 from it was 13,
Oh, damn.
which is like horrible. Like you know what I mean? That's a hard anything above I think 7 is bad. Once you go like 7 to 8 is like 7 is the danger zone. You don't want to get it above 7. After that, because it usually just goes downhill from there. Yeah, mine was 13. It was horrible. I wasn't taking care of myself. I just wasn't. I was not taking care of myself, and it's a bad example. I was setting a bad example. Thinking I could just eat whatever,
Mm.
letting you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because now even my kids are starting to see it. Because I know my son especially, Bumble. He's been on the show once. He actually changed his diet and has been really,
Ooh, serious? That's
even though
great.
he's got a little jiggle going on, he's been, but he still tries to keep it. He understands because he gained a lot of weight for a while and actually lost it, which was good.
Nice. Okay, good.
He actually saw he was very strict with what he was eating and keeping it in check. You slack off every now and then, but he does understand, and I'm glad he does. My daughters kind of see it too. So, my youngest son, he's starting to get into that invincible stage. So he's just like a little rock that like stuff just bounces off.
Oh, there it is.
You know what I mean? So hopefully he takes the lessons, you know. And it's funny too because now I'm like so into it. Sometimes I think my kids get annoyed that I just want that I want them to eat, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
eat and eat right. But I know what it is. I know what it is to not eat right. And let me tell you, in the hospital, eating eating helped my body heal. I know that.
Mm,
I've seen
mm,
it because when I was in the hospital, there was a point that I didn't even want to eat, and I've never felt that way.
mm.
That was the first. I remember that was the first night I actually had zero. And this is and I've never been to that stage that I just didn't want to eat anything, and that was because things took a turn for the worse at that point.
Right.
The infection wasn't going away, and my skin started to necrotize, and that was the night of the first, and I still didn't and it was crazy because I didn't have an appetite for a good 2 days. But then I remember when my appetite came back, it was such a weird. It's so hard to explain. It was almost euphoric. Like I felt hungry and I wanted to eat, and I was like relieved. I was like, "Oh my god, I want to
Relieved
eat."
that your appetite came back, or
Yeah,
relieved that you were eating. Mm,
both. Like
nice.
I was eating like a piece of fish and some veggies, and it was absolutely delicious. It was so good. But I haven't eaten. I had surgeries that one day. Yeah, I remember it was a Friday. It was a Friday. I had the surgery Friday. That was the one we didn't know if I was. I honestly didn't know if I was going to come back from that one.
Mm,
I had no idea. But I woke up. I was like, okay, I made it, and I still didn't have an appetite. I was like, all right. Then they did heavy antibiotics. They did another surgery that Monday, and then that night I was hungry. I was famished. My things just started kicking in. Oh man. And I was relieved because I was so worried about the lack of eating because I've never experienced that
mm,
where my body just did not want to eat. It wasn't
right.
that I was queasy, nothing. I just had no desire at all to eat anything, and it was weird. Like you knew something was wrong.
Mm,
I knew it. I was like, yo, something is not right with this. You know what I mean? And yeah, and as I ate, I felt, I understood the importance of actually eating because I even asked the doctor. I said, listen, because it's interesting. At that time, I started researching about food and the healing process, and I really picked the doctor's brains there, and said, listen, today I had pancakes with a sugar-free syrup. Is this good? The doctor literally said, right now your body needs to heal and it needs food to do so. That's why we're not giving you an absolutely carb-free diet.
mm,
I needed some carbs. So they were
nice.
giving me food cuz I noticed that. I said, "Wait, why am I getting food with carbs? I'm diabetic." Uh are you guys seeing the diabetic meal? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and they did, but they explained it to me. Your body has been through a lot of trauma, and you need to really heal, and you need certain things to heal. Wild, man. It's just the way the body works is crazy. The way the body works is crazy, and yeah, you know. But I really enjoyed this. I always wanted to. We've had these discussions a lot. We've had these discussions a lot. It's going to be the beginning of a new year. 2023 will be upon us very shortly. By the time of this release, 2023, God willing, there isn't an apocalypse anytime soon, will be upon us. It will be upon us, and I know a lot of people, have New Year's resolutions and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? Let's do one about health. I mean, this may be an ongoing series. I don't know, depending on the feedback, and I guess what's the word, the reaction to it. I know a few others have expressed interest, so we might do a few other episodes, maybe even a panel. I don't know. Like, because because health is important, and as gamers I don't think we really talk about it. Game you're probably one of the few, and actually the real Death by Cows, who has also been on the show. We've The three of us have had interesting discussions about health and such that just
Hmm.
come out of nowhere, because we've all dealt with stuff, which I think is interesting, because you really, I guess you really don't talk about it if you don't need to. But why wait till you need to?
Mm,
You know what I mean? Why wait till that moment where you have to talk about it because of a traumatic experience your body has gone through? You know what I mean? I'd
yeah,
rather like, yeah, do a couple changes now. Now there's no time like the present.
agreed.
There's no time. If you feel like doing some changes, just do it. It will be difficult. It will be hard, but I know for a fact, if this fat, sexy bearded guy can do it, and Seth isn't a fat guy, but he is a sexy guy, you know. And you, what's interesting is that you lost so much weight, and yet I always thought you were doing good with your diet and stuff, because I know about the dieting that you did,
Mm,
but you were still able. But even then, you were able to cut the pounds, and even if the doctor's saying you need to cut off like another good like 30 or so pounds, I believe you can do it. I know you can do it. I know it. We all can.
hey, my man, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if knowing your point of view
Mm,
and knowing how you didn't care before, and then seeing the changes you made now, that's definitely a testimony that you can do it. Anyone can do it.
yeah. Yeah. Word. So don't you're listening, and maybe you thought to yourself everything is good. Hey, if you're doing everything well and good, that's amazing. You know what I mean? But you're listening, you're hearing it. If you feel like you want to make a change, there's nothing wrong with that either. Health is important. It'll Listen, you'll game longer, it'll help. Certain foods actually increase your mental stamina. You'll be able to make better decisions. Your hand-eye coordination will improve. You know what I mean?
That's
Oh
true.
man, this was really amazing. We went way over the time that I thought, but I think this was a very, very good, productive discussion
Agreed.
with you, Avante. Thank you. I want to thank you very much for being a part of this again. You
Yeah,
know,
thank you for the invite, sir.
yes, this was very good. So stay tuned. There's some more stuff coming down the pipe, and with that, let's just wrap up and say, Jesus loves you. You are awesome and ganadora.